Okay, I'm unmuted. I had a little problem there, James. Sorry.
I was too, as you can tell by the scroll.
Yep. So I apologize.
You're all set to go.
Okay, very good. I want to welcome everybody to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for June 24th, 2020. And if everybody could rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if we could have the roll call of the taken, please.
Yes, I'll do that. Commissioner Claffey,
Here.
Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Havens,
Here.
Commissioner Linares,
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski,
Here.
Commissioner Woods, Commissioner Braverman, Commissioner Haggerty, Commissioner Gill,
Here.
and Chairman Payne.
Here. So
Yep.
I would like to place Commissioner Gill in for Commissioner Woods, please. And we'll roll over to approval of the agenda. I think we have one modification that the town planner asked us to consider, which is a performance bond. Where would you like to put that, Craig?
Under Town Planner Report.
Okay. So without objection, we'll put that on the agenda under town planner's report. And then we'll open this up for public participation.
We have two individuals. One is our recording secretary. The other is Barbara, who's a regular now. If she's interested, she can raise her hand and we'll unmute her.
Yeah, absolutely. You can unmute Barbara.
Go ahead, Barbara, you're open.
Hi, Barbara. If you could state your name and address for the record, I'd appreciate it.
I think she might be experiencing the same problem she had at last night's town council meeting where we can't hear her.
Okay.
You know, she was just on our last meeting and we had no problem, so I'm not sure what the problem is on this one.
All right. Did you have somebody else that wanted to speak to?
No, that's the only individual who's raised their hand.
Okay. No way to get a message to her, right?
She can call me in the office at 860-665-8550 if she'd like to, and we can get her onto the microphone.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. If she calls in, just interrupt and we'll put her in.
You got it.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other public participation, and like I said, Barbara, if you can hear us, please call into James and he'll try to get you on the line for your public participation. Any remarks from commissioners? Okay, hearing no remarks from commissioners, we'll go into our public hearing. And if Craig, if you could read the procedures for our public hearing, I'd appreciate it.
Proceedings for public hearings. The order of proceedings at public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by chairman. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairman to act in his stead. C, identification and location of the property involved by the town planner. D, a statement of the issue to be considered by the chairman or the town planner. E, presentation by applicant limited to 20 minutes unless a specific extension is granted by the chair. F, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application limited to 2 minutes per person. G, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application limited to 3 minutes per person. H, rebuttal by the applicant limited to 5 minutes total. I, rebuttal by the opposition limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairman whether the time limitations limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance. In no case shall an extension be for more than 20% of the allotment indicated above, or 1 minute, whichever is greater.
Okay, thank you very much. And the first petition is petition 10-20 zoning text amendment, section 3.11, 3.16, 3.17, and 9.2 regarding breweries and brew pubs. Newington TPZ applicant continued from June 10th, 2020. We'll ask Craig to give us a staff report on this.
Okay, at the last meeting, the hearing was kept open to give me the opportunity to add language that would make distillery pubs, if there is going to be any such thing, to the regulations, and to add language allowing food trucks to the draft. So that's what I did, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We'll go to questions. Anthony Claffey has a question. Go ahead, Anthony.
Just the question I had, I reviewed it, looked fine. For two questions I have for Craig is, why are we leaving out distillery and brewery in the B business zones? Or is that included in 3.15 when you say B-BT zones?
Yeah, yes, good question. Okay, this got more than a little bit tricky because while distilleries and breweries, which are industrial operations, are fine in the industrial zone, we wouldn't want to have I'll call it a standalone distillery or a standalone brewery in the business, in the BT zone. So that's why it's broken out the way it is.
So a distillery that can fit in with the requirements that still has to come before us for a special permit is not allowed to even try to get into a business zone where a building may fit all their credentials?
Well, I think once you start peeling off some industrial activities that are allowed in the business zone, where do you stop? So that's why I'm proposing that we
Okay.
a standalone brewery or distillery.
So
If I
why
could
would we
interrupt-
want to make our zoning law assume that a distillery is only good for a industrial zone? We don't know how you can have a distillery that's size X, or you could have a distillery that's size Y, just like you can have a grocery store size X and you can have a grocery store size Y. I mean,
Anthony, I agree with you. Also, if we just hold it to industrial zones, I noticed that the one problem is you're eliminating PD zone. So is that really fair to a planned development zone? Which is usually in a very commercial area. If what I think Commissioner Claffey is saying, if we allow it in B, BT, and all PD and industrial zones, it's either going to fit or it's not going to fit, depending on the size of the operation.
and they still would need to come before us for the zoning special permit. I think that's what we talked about last meeting on June 10th, was all of these people still have to come before the commission unless they meet all those requirements.
All right, maybe I misunderstood Commissioner Claffey's point. The way I've written the draft is brew pubs, all of these, let me try it this way. If any of these have a restaurant component to them, then they would be allowable in the BT zone. It's only a standalone brewery or a standalone distillery that I'm not suggesting be allowed in the commercial zones, but that's.
Can't we determine that as on a per case basis though, as they come in? If they meet the requirements, great. If they don't and they're oversized, of course, a business isn't going to come into an area that doesn't fit in that particular area. And they still have to comply with all the other requirements of 5.2 and 5.3. So we do have protection.
Yes, you could do that if that's
Okay.
the commission's preference.
Okay. Well, I understand your point, though. Usually distilleries and breweries are very big operations, correct, Craig?
Well, not so much big, so much as intense,
Yeah.
industrial, and that perhaps producing odors, delivery trucks coming and going, possibly working all hours of the day and night. Not exactly the kind of thing you want in your town center zone. I don't think.
So let
Unless-
me ask you that. With that said, in our town zone, look at all the restaurants that are down there that have delivery trucks and are moving a lot of equipment in and out of these restaurants, food, Cisco trucks, at all hours of the night. I mean, I think it's odd. So let me just throw this out there and Craig answer it. And what if a brewery wanted to come into somewhere over off Fenn Road where the with the new with the Starbucks and that, would they still would have to come before us, but would they fit within the zoning of that zone? That's an overlay.
It's
Yeah.
a PD zone.
So but currently right now it wouldn't be allowed.
Yes. Well, as I've drafted the regulation, yes, it would be allowed.
But where's the PD zone in our section 311 or 315 or 316?
Right. The PD zone, James, could you scroll down? Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. I mean, only as far as the B dash.
Would be 315. Go up a little bit.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Let me get my notes. Yeah, that's a good question, Commissioner. Let me get my notes. Okay, I'm back. The way the zoning regulations work is that anything that's allowed in the BTC zone, the business town center zone, if it's allowed in that zone, then it's also automatically allowed in the PD zone. This is what I've told you before. We call pyramid zoning. If it's allowed in one, it's allowed in the higher one. So that's why I only put text in here for the I'm sorry, BBT zone. If it's allowed in the BBT zone, then
Craig, is the industrial zone the last zone?
in the regs, it's somewhere in the middle of the regs. It's
Craig, why not just put the PD zone in?
Well, what Craig is saying, it's like a pyramid. Well, when
No,
anything that's allowed in BBT, then the other zones are allowed, but the industrial is separate.
That's
I
correct.
understand that.
But I can do that, Commissioner Sobieski. I can certainly add that one sentence to the PD zone to make it clear to people looking at the PD zone regs who go straight to the PD zone regs. They'll see that these are allowed there. I can add that. That's fine.
Okay. How do the other commissioners feel about Commissioner Claffey's asking to have breweries and distilleries in all the zones and then having the individual businesses coming in and making sure that they comply with everything?
Let me add to this. I mean, just reading the brewery definition or the distillery definition, it doesn't say anything about the size of the facility. So you can have a small batch facility, like I've said now for almost 2 months, that could have a 200-gallon vat. Why should he be or she be designated that they cannot come in down to downtown Newington and open and fit within, let's say, a restaurant the size of Five and Dime? I've been to them. I've been to some establishments that are even about the same size as a Five and Dime restaurant or what's his name's burger joint right next door. They're
Goldberg's.
small batch, and they have like 2 or 3 vats that literally would sit within a 10 by 10 foot facility. I'm just saying, I don't know. Just reading it, used for manufacturing, bottling, warehousing, and distributing beer or beer products. This includes tasting tours, wholesale and retail sale. So you're telling a retailer that he can't sell his product in your business zone.
I agree with you. Well, any other commissioners
Yes, I also agree with Commissioner Claffey. I think it should be allowed in the center.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners' comments?
Yeah, I kind of agree also. At least I don't disagree. I don't think any reason why you can't have it. We're well protected either way.
Yeah, Commissioner Fox, you're absolutely correct. We have plenty of protections in there. Any other comments from other commissioners? All right, do we have any other questions concerning any of this?
That
We're
that
gonna-
was my only thing. I think everything else, the definitions look great. Add in the food truck section just so they have options looks great. It coincides with the food truck and consumption of foods. You know, that's, I
Okay.
think it looks great other than that. That's it. I
Okay,
appreciate
so
the
So
work.
how about if we'll leave this open and we'll have, Craig, make those changes and we'll leave it open for one more meeting just in case there's any more public comment, if that's okay with the commissioners.
Fine with me.
Okay with me?
Commissioner Payne, I have a question. Do we have a time frame on this? Yes or no?
65 days, but we're well within it, I believe.
Okay.
Craig?
All right.
Yeah, the time deadlines don't apply to commission initiated changes.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Payne, quick question.
Certainly.
Oh, I just noticed on the second page of the petition, it lists a section under wine. Are we gonna have to eventually come back and do something for a winery? Maybe?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Evans, when you said a petition, there is no petition. Are you looking at something else?
He was maybe the definitions of a winery?
No, under section 30-1 on your sheet, Craig. Right after your memorandum, the second page after your memorandum.
Yeah, the state statute, got it.
Okay, well, it lists wine there. I'm assuming you put that there just for information, but do you think there's any reason we should throw that in also as far as with the brewery or distillery, just to have ourselves covered?
Not a bad thought. Craig, what do you think?
Well, wine. A winery, and we've all been to them. They're out in the country where the grape vineyards are. So I think I'm thinking out loud here, obviously, but they're pretty different from breweries and distilleries, which are pretty mechanical and technical. I'm kind of winging it here.
Yeah, I know.
Or do we say a wine pub or something, or?
Well,
The closest winery that I know to where we're standing in Newington is Simsbury, right over the Simsbury Bloomfield line. I mean, it's an old farm they converted.
Is that,
I've never run into one where there's one in a business zone or in any of the zones we're talking about. I mean, in Newington, I think the only place they might be able to put one is the farm across from Mill Pond. Or there's some other farmland still in town. If you were to build one. It's a good question, but I don't know if we're.
I brought it up only because I saw it there. It occurred to me, and if we can save ourselves some headache from further down the road.
Why don't we think about that? And Craig, why don't you think about that? See if it might apply.
okay.
And then you can comment on it on our next meeting. Any other questions?
I have one question, please.
Yes.
I know I've been to wineries before and I know that they're on the property where the grapes are grown, but is there, I'm not familiar with the one in Bloomfield. Do they get their wine from somewhere else and then sell it from there or have a tasting there? That's my question. I mean, is that, I don't know,
Some
you know,
will
like for
grow,
instance,
Stanley,
Like-
some will grow it on site and bottle a, set amount of gallons on site. And then they
Right.
send their recipe out to a larger vineyard in another state or also in Connecticut. Most of the ones, that's the smallest one I've ever seen in Simsbury. I mean, some of the
Okay,
bigger
so-
ones might be able to produce more on their facilities.
so basically you're saying, Anthony, that somebody could have a winery or a wine tasting here and have it shipped in from Portland or wherever else?
You could, yeah, you could.
Okay, that's what I was questioning.
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner
That-
Fox, do you have a question?
Yeah, that was my thought also. When you talk about a winery, as has been said, you know, they're usually part and parcel of the vineyard. But what if someone wanted to open up a facility here where they would import grapes, you know, the product needed to make wine? Would that be considered a winery? You know, Commissioner Claffey, or Havens, you've been,
I mean, it could be classified that. It also then comes out to the, you know, you bring up a great point. It could be.
no, maybe we would need a you know, a separate regulations for the winery. If anybody thinks it's worth it. I don't know how many, like you said, I don't know who would want to open up a winery or you know, a facility to make wine anywhere in town. It's possible, but
All right, well, these great points, and maybe we'll think about it over the next couple of weeks, and Craig can propose something maybe in case there's a possibility of bringing that type of business in. If there's no other objection, or if there's no other comments, we'll leave petition 10-20 open, and we'll go on to the next thing in the minutes. Approval of minutes.
Make the motion to approve the minutes.
A motion made
So
by
moved.
Commissioner Sobieski and seconded
Second.
by Commissioner Fox. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the minutes of June 10th. Next thing on the agenda is new business. We have petition 21-20 zoning text amendment, section 5.3, 6.1, 6.10, 6.15, 7.4, and 9.2 low impact development regulations, Newington TPZ applicant. Craig, if you could give us a report on that.
Right. Okay, as the commissioners can see, it took me 5 pages just to print all the places where LID is in the regs currently and need to be deleted. So that's what I did. It was pretty straightforward. I didn't have to do as much wordsmithing as I was afraid I might have to turn back the clock. But that's what this does. It turns back the clock to what the stormwater management rules were back before we adopted LID.
And Craig, if somebody, they still have to control the water coming off the property through other methods. But if a particular property finds that their property is suited for low impact development designs, they could still use that if their property was suited for that, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
In fact, now that you mention it, since a lot of projects have to go through the Wetlands Commission before they come to you, I think if a developer were to voluntarily propose to use LID techniques, that would probably make him points with the Wetlands Commission. So if he has the soil that's conducive to it, he probably would want to use LID voluntarily.
Now, wetlands only covers areas within their right of, what is it?
Well, there's the wetlands, and then there's everything within 100 feet of a wetland.
Right, so it's 100 feet buffer area, so they wouldn't have a say or on anything that's outside of that 100-foot buffer area.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from commissioners?
Yes, I have a comment for Craig. On page 4, 7.4.7, could you just check? I thought it was NADV 86 or 84. You've got 88 here. That's my question.
Yeah,
Right?
okay. I'll check to make sure we have the current.
Yeah, because I thought we went from 27 to 83 to 84 I didn't know, that. I don't think they've gone any farther than that, because 84 is the national on that. That's all I was, that's what I was looking at.
Any other commissioners have questions? Craig, this is still going to, one part of this is going to CROG, is that correct? This part.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, this one goes to CROG.
This one goes to CROG and the next one doesn't go to CROG, okay.
Correct.
And this has been sent to CROG, correct?
No, this is not yet, because it was still a work in progress.
Okay. So once you get the input from us tonight, then you would send it off to CROG, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? We can move this to old business while it's at CROG? Or should it stay as new business?
Well, once you give me my marching orders tonight, I'll then send it to CROG. And as you know, you can't have your public hearing until after I've sent it to, until a month after I've sent it to CROG. So there's plenty of time to schedule the public hearing. We don't have to do that right away.
Okay, so this stays on the agenda or this comes off and then comes back on as a public hearing?
Yes, or one step in between, if the commission wants me to, I can bring it back at the next meeting under applications for scheduling, but let's not do that. Let's just, you gentlemen tell me tonight to send it to CROG and to schedule the hearing as soon as possible.
That's what I would like to do is exactly what you said. Any other objections of doing that from the commissioners?
Do you need a motion to that effect?
Yes, please.
Sure.
I make a motion that we send this to CROG and then put it on the agenda for hearing next month, or next hearing, rather.
All right, so a
Second the
motion from Commissioner Sobieski and I believe Commissioner Havens is seconded. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, Craig. You're all set on that. The next petition is petition 22-20, subdivision text amendment, section 2.0, 3.0, and 6.0, low impact development regulations, Newington TPZ applicant. Okay, Craig.
All right, so again, this just takes out all the language that was put in a couple of years ago to put the LID burden on developers. This removes that burden.
Okay.
Now this, because it doesn't go to CROG, you could have your hearing on it at your next meeting, but you might want to do them the same night.
Yeah, let's do them the same night. I think that would be appropriate. Is that all right with the other commissioners?
Sounds good.
It's fine.
Does anybody have any comments concerning the language that he's drafted up for or crossed off for this? Pretty straightforward. Okay, hearing nothing. I'll if there's nothing else, we'll move over to petitions for public scheduling. We have petition 20-20 zoning text amendment for digital menu board. That'll be on the schedule for next meeting, Craig?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting, that we do it on the July 8th meeting, because I'm trying to keep the July 22nd meeting clear from regular business, because that's the night that we're having the public hearing on the POCD.
Okay, sounds good to me. And then you're also going to move the petition 23-20 on July 8th too?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners?
Do we need to close that petition?
Well, just vote to schedule the public hearing, to set the public hearing for July 8th.
Yeah, that's part of the petitions for
Okay.
public scheduling. We don't vote on that. It's
All right.
he's going to set both of those for July 8th. So now we're at the town planner report. Craig?
Yes, let me turn to that. Okay, yeah, yep, in my report. Okay, the first item is the status of the street at Deming Farm. I sent an email to the chairperson of their HOA a couple of days ago, but I have not heard back from her, so I don't know what the status is of the road that they're supposed to finish with the bond money that we gave them.
Yeah, it's more than just a road, right? Because they either have to build that sidewalk or they have to come back to us and waive the sidewalk. And they have to fix the grading behind house 1 and 2.
Yes, you're right.
And any other requirements that were eliminated or were done.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You can proceed.
Okay, outdoor restaurant seating. At the time I typed this memo to you a couple of days ago. Since then, I've been contacted by the Subway gentleman. He does want to put some chairs out in front, so I'll be sending him an approval probably tomorrow. And there's a new to me at least, pizza place on the corner of Main and Cedar next to Starbucks. There had been a pizza place there for a while, and now it's Bernardo's Pizza. And he wants to put a couple tables out in front. And I told him that that's fine. I just want confirmation from the landlord that it's okay with the landlord. But I don't see any problem with that one.
Okay.
All right, and then moving on, I give you an update on the POCD. We're waiting for the town council to give us their comments on it if they choose to. And then I remind the commission that the original deadline to adopt the new POCD was June 8th, but with the executive order 7I gives us an extra 90 days. So now the new deadline is September 8th of 2020. Now, the public hearing has been scheduled for July 22nd. As we spoke about this at the last meeting, I think, and there were some concerns that doing it by Zoom might not really get as much public involvement as possible. So I think the plan is to open the public hearing as a Zoom meeting. And if the commission feels that there wasn't much participation, then we can talk about, and maybe we should talk about it beforehand, but we can then possibly make arrangements to continue the public hearing in a physical setting where folks are sitting 6 feet apart with masks and so forth. But we can make that decision at the end of the July 22nd hearing if the commission wants to continue it.
Okay, I agree with you. We can wait on that decision until the 22nd. We'll see how the meeting goes virtually. Do all the commissioners understand that? If we feel at the 22nd, if we have to, then we could talk about having another public hearing. Any commissioners' comments? Commissioner Claffey?
I had a comment on something different, so finish your concern on the POCD hearing,
Okay.
and then I'll come back to me, please.
Okay, let me have Craig, if there's no other comments on POCD, any other comments on the POCD? Okay, Commissioner Claffey, go right ahead. What's your question?
The one question I had on the restaurant approvals, I don't know if I've received the updated lists of ones that have been approved. The only reason I asked that, I was driving on the Pike today and looked over at Mykonos and just noticed that between last week and this week, they put up 2 large tents that extended, one of them extended into the parking lot. And again, just more of a question of asking. I know we have no real authority here outside of what you are doing, which is great. But the back end of this question is, if we had the list and we see that something's getting larger and larger, more of just bringing it to your attention, Craig.
You're right. Well, I'm glad you did, because I didn't know that they had done that.
Yeah,
They were one of the first, and they put those plastic bubbles over their tents.
Yeah.
A lot of attention.
I mean, it didn't bother me. It just was like, whoa, that wasn't here like yesterday type of thing.
Okay, I'll look into that. I did not know.
So,
It's possible that they've been working with the fire department because they had problems with their bubbles and stuff and the earlier stuff. And then they had a tarp up, and then after the tarp came that nicer tent. So
okay.
I just want to be clear
to the commission. I didn't bring it up to, I just saw it. It spawned interest of the restaurants that have done this. And I just want to be more transparent that we all know what's going on. I don't care that they do it. I just want to make
Yep.
sure we all know.
Okay, no problem. We'll have Craig check into it. Any other questions? Craig, would you finish with the, your planner's report?
Okay, so the next item, as the commission knows, the staff is working on some amendments to the regulations. We're working on the personal business zone regs. I haven't made any progress on that since the last meeting. But I did make some progress on the commercial vehicle regulation. As commissioners who've been on the commission for a while know, we have a very complicated commercial vehicle regulation. And so as you can see, I streamlined it quite a bit. I think one of the reasons the existing regulation is so confusing is because it sort of has some double negatives in there, which makes it confusing to the reader whether, gosh, am I reading about something that's allowed or am I reading about something that's prohibited if it's not some other way? So that's why I just kind of like scrapped it and started
Okay.
from scratch with a more simple, straightforward rule.
Why don't we have this on the agenda for discussion at our next meeting, just for discussion under new business? We could talk about it for a few meetings before we put it actually on our agenda we probably have to put it on for a public hearing.
Right? Okay, I can do that.
And then I noticed that you did a lot with the outstanding performance bonds. We have a list of things in the back here.
Right, yes. Actually, though, the one that was in the agenda packet was the wrong one. And I sent James at 4:40 this afternoon, a correct one. And James, I see you're displaying it now. Yeah, the one that James is displaying, if you start from the bottom, you see there's the bond for 188 Costello Road from March of 2020. That's the most recent one. And I put a note on that one that it's under construction. And then the next one above that from 2019, thank you, James, is the O'Reilly car parts one, which we'll be actually talking about again later tonight. So I'm working my way up through in reverse chronological order. Starbucks, they haven't asked for a bond reduction since 2017. I'm not sure why. They've forgotten about it, but I doubt it. I'm sure Mr. Hayes knows where every penny of his is. And then LA Fitness, I wrote to them back in 2014, letting them know that we're still holding $5,000 of their money. And I never heard back, so I may try again. There may be someone.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through these, and if there's no outstanding issues, then we could just cut these checks and send them to them. I mean, you have $10,000 at Target from 2003. I mean, there's no reason for us to be sitting on $10,000 for Target
Right.
if everything's completed over there.
Yep.
And then I noticed some that, like Zag Machine, they just sold their building. So, we've got to address that. And these are just too old.
Yes.
So if you could give us a little more detail on each one of them, and then the commission can talk about them. And the easy ones we can start taking action on, and the other ones we can get additional information. Do any of the commissioners have any questions concerning the outstanding performance bonds?
I have a question. Do we know what's missing on each one of these? I mean, like Jefferson Court's been there for, I don't know, 20 years now, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The really old ones, off the top of my head, I don't remember what the holdup was, but in pretty much all of them, when the commission went through this exercise back around 2013, 2014, there was a reason for all of them why the money was still here. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm researching as to why we still have the money.
I think some of those, if I remember correctly, Craig, were the fact that trees weren't planted. Some people didn't want trees anymore.
Well, good point. Yeah, the Patrick Snow, no, the Rockledge, actually, good one, Commissioner. Yeah, the fourth one from the bottom, Rockledge Drive subdivision. Yeah, the developer never planted the trees. And so I contacted him back several years ago and he said, fine, keep the money, buy trees. So I did. So that money actually the town should just take the money and put it in the general fund. So I'll take care of that. But
Well,
Which one,
legally,
the Rockledge subdivision?
yes,
for 10,000?
No,
it's 3,500, 3,100.
from,
The
from
sheet-
7/24, 2007.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at says 10 grand.
Yeah,
Okay, what's
We're-
the,
we're not gonna put that in a general fund. We're gonna start returning some of this money to the businesses.
well, no,
Okay.
which one? The tree one, we went to Lenara's Landscaping and bought trees and we used that money. So I'm not sure why the finance department says that it's still being held, because I thought we got that,
Yeah, but we didn't use all of it, did we?
well, that might be why it says 3,000, because that may be what was
Okay.
left over. We bought enough from Lenara's and there was maybe 3,000 left. So that might be, but I'll find out.
Let's get detail on each one of them so that the commission can talk about them and then decide whether or not we truly need something after 15 and 20 years, or whether or not we should just send the money back to the businesses.
Well, that's my point, because if I remember correctly, Target, I think, was the fact that they didn't plant some trees.
That's correct.
Well,
You know, and I can't imagine $10,000 worth of trees in there, but I could be wrong.
that's why we'll get the details so we can make a determination. And if we have to, we could take site visit over there. And if the trees aren't needed and it's been 15 or 20 years, I think that it would be the prudent thing for us to give the money back to the developers or the businesses in either case. It's possible that there could be a couple things that are missing, mere stones or something else. Well, that would have to get done. Any other commissioner questions on the outstanding performance bonds? Thank you, Craig. The more detail you can give us on these, it'll be better for us to determine what to do with them. And no matter whatever details you have next meeting on some of these, let's address this and have this on the agenda at each of our meetings so that we can address this.
Right.
Thank you.
And I think that was the last item in my memo, but we do have that one new item of business, which is actually a bond reduction. The O'Reilly Car Parts place, the work is done. They've completed the site. They've done everything they're required to do. So and the reason we're holding a $5,000 bond is some time ago, they'd finished all the work on the building and they were ready to open for business. They were ready to get a CO from the building inspector, but they hadn't finished all the landscaping and all the parking stuff. So that's why the CEO allowed them to open for business, but took a $5,000 bond to make sure that they finished, as he says, the minor improvements, and they have now been finished. So the CEO is now recommending that the bond be released.
Any questions from commissioners?
You need a motion to that effect?
I have a question.
Commissioner Claffey.
I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I'm going to bring up a sore subject on this commission, but the Firestone, we held a bond on that to make sure that the grass grew in and the trees grew in and all that. I think some of them are dead still. So I just want to make sure that we're good with, releasing this. I mean, it seems like from August 2019 to now, unless I'm assuming they just did it a few days
No.
and weeks ago.
No, they did it a while ago and it has grown. I didn't see any dead plants over there. Andrew, our zoning enforcement officer and assistant town planner went over there and he has inspected the entire property and he gave Craig the okay on it. And I took a drive by this afternoon when I found out that they were adding this to the agenda. I didn't see any dead plants and the grass was growing good. But great point, Commissioner Claffey, that it's good to double check on the plants and everything. Absolutely. Craig, that's correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other commissioners' comments? If not, if there's no other comments, I'll suggest a motion for this performance bond.
Make a motion that the performance bond for 3443 Berlin Turnpike, O'Reilly's Auto be returned to the owner.
Okay,
Second.
motion made by Commissioner Sobieski and seconded by Commissioner Fox. Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to release the bond. Okay, Craig, is there any other business?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, we're gonna go to public participation now in case somebody else from the public has something. Maybe Barbara's still on the line.
Barbara is on, but unfortunately, she did contact me and indicate she was having problems. I did
Okay.
indicate to her she could contact me on my cell phone and we could add her on, but at this point, I don't believe she has anything she'd like to say at this time.
Thank you very much, James.
You're welcome.
Okay, since there's no public participation, remarks by commissioners, any commissioners have anything?
Yes, I just, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Stanley. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to let you know, I sent the latest CROG updates to everybody.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Claffey?
I have two items I wanted to discuss. One is I've noticed a lot of social media posts about noise ordinances and late night noise. And I wanted to see, I know it sometimes falls under the police department. They go out and they inspect the noise complaint. And I know there's a separate set of laws and regulations in regards to what they do, when they can do it and how they do it. But I just want to kind of figure out from the commission or get it as a talking point for a future meeting. We don't have to debate it tonight, but I'd like to maybe have it added at a future meeting of how we can maybe take the noise ordinance and put part of it underneath the zoning regulations with a decimal meter reader for the zoning officer, so that the Newington Police get a zoning noise violation at 10 at night and they report it, once or twice a week to TPZ, and then they go out and check it, if it be a business that's operating loud machinery, et cetera, et cetera. I know it's a lengthy kind of thing, but some local jurisdictions, have regulations that commingle between the police department or fire department and TPZ. I think this might be one where some noise issues might need to fall under zoning with police help. But I don't think the police officer should have to stand there with a decimal reader to see that the construction equipment the guy's illegally using at 10 at night, other than them saying for that person to please stop doing what they're doing because they're in violation of maybe the hours of noise, and then refer it over to TPZ or to the zoning officer, and they go out and have that discussion with that property or business, and then maybe say, okay, it's a manufacturing business that's running machinery late at night, which they might be able to do, but it's over the noise ordinance. I think the police might have some better things to do than to hold a decimal meter up in the air, and maybe refer kind of things like that to the planning department. If again, it's a
Okay.
discussion point, I think it's something we need to look at. It doesn't have to be discussed at length tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. I agree with you. There's definitely some problems there. I think the noise falls under a noise ordinance, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Craig?
Yes.
So,
Or
so
is
that ordinance falls under council?
Well, yes, the council writes ordinances and then the police department enforces them.
Okay. Could we put it on our agenda just to review it and make recommendations?
If you want,
Is that work for the other commissioners?
I think it's something at least to look at, and then we either say yay or nay and like, hey, leave it alone, it's going well, or no, we need to hopefully make some remarks. We work well with the other departments and they work well with us, so.
Yeah.
It's worth
think
taking a read.
I think one of the biggest problem is I don't think we have a decimal meter to measure anything, and it's very difficult for residents and businesses. They would have to hire somebody privately, like that Firestone case. They had to hire somebody privately, and the town couldn't check anything. If the town checked it, it could have avoided things. So I think it's worth having it on our agenda, take a look at it, and then make recommendations possibly to the council on it.
And then a second item I wanted to bring up is to see if interdepartmentally we can discuss. And currently, we go to our town website as a homeowner or a contractor or whatever, and we can pull a building permit online. We can download all the info, upload all the info to the building department. But then you need to go over in a zoning application, kind of usually mirrors with your building application. But our residents, me, myself included, have to snail mail my zoning application. I think it's time that we bring that up to the 21st century, where a contractor, a homeowner, or a business owner can do their zoning stuff right online and submit it, just like we can do with our building inspection department. And then we're giving back, okay, you're missing this, you're missing that. I mean, these two departments are under the same umbrella. I think we should have the same option. I think it's kind of a slow process to have to submit a zoning application for a pool via the mail, but I can submit the pool application to the building department online. It just seems
Okay.
odd.
Thank you, Commissioner Claffey. Craig, could you answer to that, any of that?
Yes, yes, the building department forms, application forms that you can complete and submit online are part of a package. The town of Newington purchases it. I think it's Permit Plus, I think is the name of the product. A lot of towns use it. And they do have a zoning permit module that the town could buy. I'm not sure how much we can customize it, but let's assume it would be acceptable, the format would be acceptable to us. But there is a charge for that module, but I can find out how much it costs.
Craig, is there anything, I know that the IT department did a big help with our GIS mapping. I remember under the last zoning officer, D'Amato, where he could just do things for client or customers, and they could go online and have everything in that zone. Is that kind of what you're getting at? Or I don't know if it's out of the hands of IT. I think you're right. Like the permit side for building was an actual name of a software.
Yeah. What you're remembering was, Mike D'Amato put together a really neat tool that citizens or appraisers or potential businesses could use to find the zoning, something in the zoning regulations that they were concerned about. That product, it's still on the shelf. It hasn't been rolled out yet. I think the IT department had other things that took a priority, but that's different from the Permit Plus process.
Yep.
Like I said, I will find out how much it would cost to digitize our application process.
And one other thing regarding our zoning office / building department, you could maybe answer for me, just so I can have personal clarification. Is that department now, with the town hall currently closed, but employees are still working, is that department taking any type appointments, or is they just telling people to send stuff in?
I'm sorry, the building department?
No, zoning and building, because like I wanted to drop the application off and I was told, no, I got to put it in the mail because there's no appointments. So I'm just trying to get a sense if I know being closed is safe and greater, but if a contractor wanted to drop off his zoning packet, which could he call the office and someone could just take it from him from the door, like
Yes.
Board of Ed did with a broken computer this past week?
Yes. I have done that. In fact, I
Okay.
don't know why someone wasn't told that was also an option.
Can we inform our staff at the front that that's allowed by you, or?
Yeah, to make an appointment. Sure.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Dominic, Tom Gill.
Yes, Commissioner.
Go back to the noise complaints and just a question on the enforcement agent. You know, if he's going to be going out at 10 o'clock at night, how is that going to fill into his time? You know, how?
Well, it's a good question, and I think we need to look into it. It's possible that it might have to stay with the police department. Maybe it has to be possibly given over to the fire department or something, or But you're right that sometimes those things are gonna be late night checking them out. So that's something that we should discuss.
Commissioner Payne, just to follow up on Commissioner Gill, I think they have to be certified to do the reading. And, you know, somebody gets called in, I think the town says they gotta get paid 4 hours. Now, I don't know how that applies to the fire department or not, but I'm just, you know, wherever this is gonna reside, we need to have that person certified to use this piece of equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, and as we go along here, you know, maybe we should find out how many items we're talking about. You know, I mean, is this happen 10 times, you know, in a year, or does it happen 2? You know, I mean, how many real complaints are there out there?
All good questions. We'll have to get that data from the police department. Once Craig puts together some information for us. But I did notice what Commissioner Claffey was talking about. There was a resident that they had a neighbor that was playing loud music all day into the night. But we don't know how loud it was. And it was kept on continuing and continuing. So there's some isolated problems out there. I don't know if there's a tremendous amount of them, but we can certainly get that information from the police department.
Dominic, I have one other thing.
Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Planner, did we get an update on the goings-ons behind the tattoo parlor building on the Berlin Turnpike? You know, there were some piles of dirt way back there. This was, you know, right when COVID started hitting. You guys talked about it.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't have anything recent for you, but I can find out.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions for the planner?
Yeah, it's just Tom Gill. Bonefish building. There was some scuttlebutt about hen barbecue possibly going in there. Do you know anything about that?
No, I think I got a call from Commissioner Sobieski this morning or someone asking me if I knew anything about it. No, I'm always the last to know these things.
Okay.
Craig, it wasn't me because I was at the doctor's office this morning.
It was me, Craig. Yesterday I called you. Commissioner Fox. It's nice that, you know, Facebook knows what's going on much before, you know, either you, the chair, or any of us know.
Any other commissioners have any questions or comments? I don't have any closing remarks. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by
Anthony Claffey.
Commissioner Sobieski and seconded
Second
by
by Anthony.
Commissioner Claffey. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, commissioners, and thank you, public, and thank you, James and IT, for all your help getting through this. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Have a great evening.